Hey, this is Zach Log the Great, and I am here tonight with my friend Nate.
Holla, Miss Amigos.
And with Lewis.
Howdy, Miss Mowdy.
And we are getting together tonight to talk about G.K. Chesterton's poem, The Mystery. Um, Before we get to that, as usual, if you like my work, you like what I do, you want to support me, you can go to subscribestar.com/Zachlog the great. The link is in the description, and you can sign up to support the channel there for whatever degree you would like to contribute. Um, and having said that, it's been a while since I've done this for one of the talks. Obviously, I record the poem on my own, but I will be reading the poem tonight. So let me get that up for you guys, and you can let me know when that is visible. Let's see. This is the one. There we
Mm, visible.
go. Okay. The Mystery by G.K. Chesterton. If sunset clouds could grow on trees, it would but match the May in flower, and skies be underneath the seas, no topsy-turvier than a shower. If mountains rose on wings to wander, they were no wilder than a cloud. Yet all my praise is mean as slander, mean as these mean words spoken aloud. And never more than now I know that man's first heaven is far behind. Unless the blazing seraph's blow has left him in the garden blind. Witness, O sun, that blinds our eyes, unthinkable and unthankable King, that though all other wonder dies, I wonder at not wondering.
Beautiful.
Okay, so Lewis, as the less common guest, would you like to lead off with your thoughts on this one tonight?
If I may, yes, please. My thoughts on this are a myriad. Where to start? I'll guess I'll go in chronological order. I'll start with the clouds that could grow on trees. Honestly, that sounds like he's wondering why things were made the way they were. Why, for example, we have a sunset in the sky rather than on the ground, or why we have mountains that are sedentary instead of flying around. Uh, Odd thoughts, almost Dr. Zeus like, but definitely kind of the random thoughts, almost like a child. But not childish, but definitely in childlike wonder of kind of the natural element about. And the last element that really kind of struck home and made it kind of beautiful is the last bit. I think it was I wonder at not wondering. I think it was.
Yes. Oh, wait, I
Yes,
still have that up.
you do.
Here. Yeah,
Excellent. I
I
wonder
just
at
here.
not
Wait.
wondering. So that strikes me as he's he's asking kind of how could you not view all these natural beauties and not marvel and wonder at such beauty? Well, at least that's
Yeah,
my takeaway from it.
yeah, and he says, where is it? If sunset clouds could grow on trees, like if you could take the suns those clouds out of the sky and have them grow on the trees, it would but match the May in a flower, and it's like that's no more that is no wilder, no more beautiful, no more stunning than what we already have in May when when these trees and bushes are flowering. And so And he does the same thing two more times. If mountains rose on wings to wander, well, if you look up in the sky, there are these clouds up there that are the size of mountains, and they just float along in the sky, and none of us gives it a second thought. And so, yeah, it's the idea that like the world is an amazing and kind of crazy place, and we're all just kind of used to it.
Maybe so.
Nate, how about you?
It reminds me, this whole I wonder not at wondering is, you're right. It's not even that people are too used to it. It's that people don't understand to look. Like, it kills me sometimes. Like, I'm wandering around, like, when I was delivering newspapers, I am driving around, the backest water, the most backwater. Like, it is more back than water at this point. All right. And it's my first time doing this route. So I have another person with me, and she's telling me where to go, kind of pointing things out. It's that place. And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, hey, there's a raccoon hanging on that telephone pole. She's like, oh, what? Where? What telephone pole? I'm like, we just drove past it. She's like, okay. She's like, oh, wow, what was that? Like something wrong. I'm like, oh, that's a cat. I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, there's a possum over there. She's like, well, how do you see all this stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. My eyes work. Paying attention. And just, it's a constant source of amazement how much people don't actually look at things. Like, they just pass their eyes over, but they don't actually look at it. I remember last summer I was watching, I'm doing some work, I'm waiting on this air conditioner to do its thing. And I'm looking this afternoon thundercloud build up, and I can actually visibly see it climbing up higher into the atmosphere. And I'm like, I have never in my life seen a cloud build that way, but like just moment by moment, it would just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And finally, I'm like, when's it going to top out? Because that's going to be a straight up thunderhead right there. It's a big old cumulonimbus cloud. And sure enough, it hit a certain point, and I was like, now? Is it now? And then it did the thing where it sort of flattens out on top. It hits a different layer of air, and it can't push up against it, so it starts to kind of pop out like that. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
Well, and it's kind of a paradox, and I think all of us do it to a certain extent. The things that we see every day are the things that we see the least.
Yeah.
Like, in your own neighborhood, you drive by, the same houses every day, and at some point you kind of stop seeing them. And, kind of what this poem is saying is, we do that to the whole world, and it's kind of sad. At the same time, like, it's also kind of something we have to do, because like if we took the time to be astonished at these things, like they probably deserve, like we'd never get to work, and we would never get supper on the table or do our laundry, because all the like literally all the time, if you look around, there's something that's probably worth just stopping and staring at in amazement for a while. I mean, heck, the way our own bodies work is kind of impressive, and like, we can't take the time to think about it because you just gotta live life.
I'm busy
and it's
using
yeah, and so and so yeah, it's I like this. Like, I understand.
This poem doesn't denigrate people who, like, it doesn't denigrate the idea that, yeah, you got to get stuff done. You can't just walk around like a goggle-eyed child all your life. But also, it still is pointing out that there has to be time for that. Like, you got to sort of come in and sort of like, smack the zoom out button every once in a while. Like, And like, I am a pile of thinking meat wrapped around, it's like alternately surrounded by and wrapped around bone, like, basically well-shaped rocks with biological rubber bands springing back and forth to propel me in a perpetual fall that I can just about keep right. Observing all of this. I'm sentient hamburger talking about, quasars and solar flares and, the effect that a large rock 250,000 miles away has on the water right next to me. This is all unbelievable. And then, being a Christian, there's a whole nother set of layers on that, I am this thinking hamburger because the substance and author of the entire universe decreed that I would be and said, by the way, while you're thinking, I'm going to give you enough horsepower in the burger to actually comprehend this world. Dingoes don't care that that somehow there's a rock out there big enough to pull the ocean around, right? They just care about eating your baby. Ants, ants are not interested in the tensile strength of the structures they make with their bodies. They're just like, I'm going to hang on to Frank's thorax for a minute, and the other 1,000,000 Franks are going to walk across me, and then I'll climb up Frank, and then Frank will climb up behind me. They don't care. I have been blessed with the ability to see and understand. Our kind alone has the cognizance to look around the universe and be awed by it, instead of to look up at the stars and think, not food.
And I gotta admit, I really love your analogy to human beings as thinking hamburgers, because that is disturbingly true and highly hilarious. Bravo, sir. Well done. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. From now on, I'm calling the brain the Think Burger.
Yes, the Think Burger. And it kind of amazes me that the Think Burger sometimes even requires things like stopping to smell the roses, because that's a thing. Because human beings, if they just work, they will burn out. So stopping, relaxing, and being in awe of that which is created, and just kind of, like you said, hitting the zoom out button is critical.
That reminds me of a joke I came up with a while back. What's the difference between roses and little girls? Joe Biden won't always stop and smell the roses.
Oh, that was so good it hurt. Oh.
I gotta zoom back in now. Zoom out far enough to see Washington, D.C., the aneurysms start to come. And I welcome them.
Oh man.
It's also kind of funny in this poem because, like I said, he takes these comparisons. He says, to use our phrase, back to the poem. He says, if the sunset clouds could grow on trees, it would but match the May in a flower. And he does this a couple more times. And he's like, if this amazing thing that would just totally floor us happened, it would be no stranger than this perfectly ordinary thing that we ignore every day, that is just there. And he's like, and he says, but where is it? Yet all my praise is mean as slander, mean as these mean words spoken aloud. And it's like, he's trying to say that the world is a marvelous place, but then he's mad at himself because the only way he can say that is to try and make amazing things ordinary. He's comparing amazing things and he's saying, well, that's no stranger than this other thing. He's like, and it's not that it's no stranger, it's that everything is just this beautiful and wild and wonderful, and we don't think about that enough. And it's that's very nice phrasing there. Um, and also, like, the idea in the third stanza, like, man's first heaven is far behind. Like, we're out of the Garden of Eden. That's way in the rearview mirror. Unless, what if we are actually still in the Garden of Eden and we're just too bloody blind to notice it? And it's, yeah. Interesting thought.
Paradise.
Excuse me, I'm going to
Paradise
have an
is well and
existential
truly
crisis
lost.
over here now.
No, paradise is well and truly lost.
Oh,
The thorns rise up. The pain of our labors are deep in my bones on some days. The rampant injustice, the sadness, the death. We are far from man's first heaven. Very
True.
far behind us now.
True.
Men were cursed that you're going to have to work and it's going to suck. And women were cursed that you're going to have to you're going to have babies and it's going to hurt. And so
You're going to want to control men, but you're not going to be able to.
Well, yes, your desire will be for him, and he will rule over you. I didn't know I knew that section quite that well. Okay.
I do have a question for the two of you guys.
DNA code on for that. Like it pops up. Like you tell if you walked up some primitive off of say Sentinel Island, or like, and you told him essentially that, and he'd be like, "Yeah," and then he'd stab the heck out of you because he's a Sentinelese. But
Quick question for you guys. The poem kind of mentioned being in awe of things. I'm just gonna kind of put this into practice. Lord Zacklog, what was the last time that you regarded something with childlike wonder and awe?
Not for long enough, probably. But one thing I wish I could go running still, but because of various issues, that's not that great an option. But I still do long bike rides a good bit, and we're in a relatively rural area, and so I go for my bike rides. I go, if I want good distance, I go way the heck out of town. And one thing I get to see sometimes is hawks or buzzards or like other large birds, just flying relatively close, and that always catches my eye. Another thing, and I've got to find out what kind of birds these are. Once or twice a year in this area, there's these massive flocks of migrating birds that go overhead, and it's if you catch it at the right time, it's like a river of them overhead. I don't know what kind they are. I should talk to someone at one of the schools around here, and biology department, and see if I can find out. But it's like just watching that, because they'll, for several minutes at a time, you'll see these things, and it is absolutely like this river of birds in the sky, and I haven't gotten used to that one yet.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Nate, how about you?
Yeah.
The thing that wondered me most recently was the stupidity of a person who should have been a craftsman. But I think
was it funny though?
Positive. Yeah,
humans.
He was told to seal a return under a lady's air conditioner, and by God, he sort of did. He had gaps in the edges, but what he ended up doing was he clapped a chunk of drywall under the intake for the air conditioner's blower so that it couldn't draw air. I'm like,
Why?
You needed to do the three sides, the left, the right, and the back, not the top. You utter muppet.
I'm
But
sorry, Nate.
on the positive side, I think the thing that most sort of wondered me for a minute was clear water. Me and my brother were fishing several months ago. And I remember this clearly because it was just startling. Usually, the water out in the marshes is kind of stained. You know, it has like a sort of sweet tea color to it. It's like clear-ish. You can see down into it, but it's got also like this sort of tannic brown in it. Quit retching. It looks nice. But there had been like a whole lot of, the water was moving a fair amount, and there's a whole lot of what we call coontail growing in it. And it's this kind of water grass, and it naturally filters a lot of the dirt and sediment stuff. So we get to this one cut that I'm used to, like, yeah, I see a couple of feet down, and it's usually relatively clear coming out of here, you know, the black water. But we go in there, and it's just, it looks like the water failed to generate, and you're just floating at a level. Like, I didn't realize that cut was that deep. It was like 10 feet straight down, and I could see the bottom. I was like, holy crap, this is unheard of in Louisiana. Usually our water looks like it was made by Nestle.
Oh,
that daggum rabbit came here and stirred a bunch of chocolate powder in it, but this is strangely clear. Then it became annoying after a minute because there weren't no fish in it. They were like, no, we're going somewhere else.
So wait, Nate, I your first one, I thought of this quote. You might appreciate it. I am not sure this is who actually said it because he's one of the people that gets things stuck on him. But two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Albert Einstein.
Yeah. No, but just I see things on a fairly regular basis that I kind of like have to stop and take in. You know, just like big old oak tree. I'm always like, big oak tree. Love me a big oak tree. You know, just cool stuff. I like to see sandy creeks. I think one of the best things I've seen in a long time is another time me and my brother were fishing. One of the rivers around here, it kind of hits a spot where they'd put just a little spreader dam. You know, and what they did, they had set up a pond for some kind of a pump station. It's long defunct, but some of the station infrastructure is still over in one part of the pond. Good place to fish around because the bass love it. But then they had, like I said, it's just this sort of stacked up dam right here, and you could, you know, it had a few inches of water going over the top of it, and it goes from being sort of like a slower bayou on one side going into this pond. On the other side, it's like this running sandy creek, and just it's so idyllic right there. And I'm like, okay, this was the objective of Eden. This right here. It's not for nature to be unspoiled. It is for the hands of man to shape and manipulate nature in such a way that it works for us and also beautifies the nature. I'm like, this right here is the thing. And I still get a nice dopamine hit whenever I think of that scene because it's just like, God, that was gorgeous.
See, and this reminds me of one thing which I think I've said in a different talk about a Walter Scott poem. Walter Scott? Do I have the name? Is that the name? Yeah, Walter Scott. Anyway, but
we've made him look through his books.
But there are I am increasingly becoming a supporter of, like, you know, staying where you're from, having seen for myself some things that, you know, aren't that you know, you kind of lose if you move away. But I will say I think it's probably good for everyone to, like, live somewhere far away from home for like 6 months or a year, because until you do that, there are things you love about your home area that you're not even aware that you love. There are things that matter immensely to you that you don't even know because you've never been without them, or not for long. And
the way it rains in the summer.
And for me, where I'm from, is the Appalachians, and where I am now is flat, about as flat as that gets, and I miss hills, and I didn't know that I loved hills until I lived away from hills for a few years, and then came back, and I'm like, wait. There's texture here. Okay, I am not kidding. Like when we drive back home, well before we actually get to home, like when we're just in the Appalachians in general, I look around and and we're in the hills, and I look around and I don't know how to explain it. Part of me just kind of relaxes just a little bit. Like I can just breathe a little bit easier. And
oh, there's no alligators here.
Actually, believe it or not, I have a rejoinder to that Zach log, because I experienced that kind of recently. I went up to work in Wyoming, and I was there for weeks at a time. And as I was there, I realized I missed the greenery, because at the time I was there, it was just dead grass, just brown everywhere you looked. And I did not realize until I did not have it, but Louisiana is very green, even in the winter. And I missed that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, you don't know that until you're not there for a while. Like and you come to appreciate it.
There's no alligators here. Yay.
I mean, what I was thinking of, actually, no, that's in Colorado. There's some guys farming alligators in Colorado. Alligators and tilapia.
Really?
Yeah, they have hot springs on their property, and they're like, what can we do with this? And so they farm alligator and tilapia in Colorado.
I'll be blued. I had no idea.
I laughed very hard. I was like, well done, gentlemen. But no, like what I was saying is I missed how it rained when I was stationed in Virginia. I missed how it rains in the summer here. Because like in Virginia, they have this way that it will just sort of drizzle or like do like a heavy mist for a week and a half.
Ugh.
Just like, dude, will you just rain already? And like it finally comes, it's like, discernible drops. It's actually a rain shower. I'm like, oh, hey, it finally started raining. And people are like, dude, it's been raining for 3 days. I'm like, no, it has been aggressively dewing for 3 days. That is not rain. Like, what do you mean that ain't rain? I'm like, you have never been in a Southwest Louisiana thunder shower. I'm like, I'm talking these times where it rains so hard you can feel the weight on the roof. Like you can't see 50 feet out the door. We were in one building and there was another building across the way that was another unit. And I was like, several times in a summer, it will rain so hard that if I were standing in this door and that rain was coming down, you would not see that building. People are like, hurricanes don't count. I'm like, it's not. That rain is coming straight down.
They said hurricanes don't count. Oh, that's beautiful.
I was just like, guys, you don't understand. It just doesn't rain here. Like this rain is just sort of like it's like it's trying to carry the water inland and keeps dropping some. It's not actually giving it to us. It's just sort of like, what's falling out of it. I'm just like, God, this is so stupid. I hate this.
So I guess we can add this to your list of things that you should remember to be amazed by next time they come through.
Oh, look, the first time when we were down, we finally moved home and it was coming into summer. And the first one of those that hit, kid you not, walked outside and stood in it just so I could get soaked to the skin in a quarter second. And then just be like, yup, that's rain.
If I understand correctly, in like Southeast Asia, they would disagree with you, and they're like, no, you don't have rain. You have
No.
you have a solid drizzle.
Yeah. Oh, you rain a funny. It rain like that. What, 6 times a year? Try 6 months. Calm down.
Great.
All day, all night. It just rained.
Big old fat rain. We don't hit it. And rain.
I actually remember there was some accounts like during the Vietnam War where the guys were talking about how it would just monsoon season, just rain constantly. So you got a point there, man.
Right, that's the thing. I mean, hey, look, we're the half tropics down here. There's the field tropics over there. It's fine. I don't begrudge them that they can tell me that it doesn't rain here versus there. Sure, buddy, you're right. You win the rain. You win the rain game. It's just that, oh God, just whenever the sky gets just tenebrous, which is a word I learned in middle school, and I've only ever been able to, only rarely been able to properly apply to a situation. But those afternoon thunder showers, just tenebrous, this tense darkness is coming over the sky, and it's just, it's getting ready to hit. The best story I have about it, we were out at the river on Dynamite Slough. Great name for a body of water.
No kidding.
Like you almost can't use a trolling motor on this particular creek because the current is so fast. Like, I mean, it's boiling all the way through the whole place. But when we're out there and there's like this little sort of pocket by a culvert, and it's got a sandbar in it. And so you can go swim there, just don't swim 30 feet out or you're going to end up in the middle of Sabine, drowned. But so we're all sitting there, and we've been eating our burgers and stuff. We sat down for lunch, we've been eating. And we all kind of hear this static sound, just like, all looking around each other, like, what is that? It's getting louder. And then I remember I looked over and we could see where Sabine River, where the slough flows into Sabine, and you kind of see around into a bend of the Sabine. And I can see over there, because all woods across the river from us. And there's sort of a bluff, so it's even higher up than it. But I can see a solid gray wall coming around the bend. I was like, holy crap. I was like, oh my God, everybody needs to get in the cars. Look at that. And so like we look at it and we're just watching this impenetrable wall of rain coming at us. And we're like throwing stuff in the trucks and trying to get everything back up. And like I remember we were pulling out of there as the rain, like we just slammed the doors shut on the cars and fired them up as the rain over us. And it was just like the most amazing thing. I could talk about rain for another hour and a half, but we don't have that kind of time.
Aw, man.
The Eskimos have 400 words for snow.
Really?
Okay.
I don't think the Eskimos have words.
What was that? There's sorry, that just reminded me of there's this YouTube channel. I don't know what's the first thing of his I found, but it's a Sam O'Nella, like the chicken you're not supposed to eat. Anyway, he has one of them on the wild world of Inuit mythology, which is like a lot of, if you didn't, like a lot of things, if you didn't grow up with it, if you didn't hear it very young, like, and you hear it for the first time as an adult, you're like, this is kind of insane. So But
Well, to be fair,
Oh,
any kind of mythology you're not familiar with will sound insane. My favorite example is Norse mythology. If you're not familiar with it and you hear it, it's nuts.
That actually reminds me of what is it? And getting further afield, but that happens. What is it? There's a book by Douglas Adams. It's which one is that? I think it's Life, the Universe, and Everything. But he starts off and he describes this weird series of events back on prehistoric Earth, and like these aliens crash into the planet and displace the actual Earth people and like mess up everything. And I read that when I was like somewhere between 12 and 15. I don't know. And then when I was like, 23, 24, somewhere in there, someone explained the beliefs. Someone explained the beliefs of Scientology. And I realized, and I'm like, this sounds oddly familiar, although not exactly. And then I realized, like, oh, Douglas Adams was satirizing Scientology. And I had no idea about this. And so that was the first my first exposure to this, and it was a very very strange instance of the Weird Al effect.
Sounds like I need to read some Douglas Adams.
It's definitely. Wait, have you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy?
Read it? No. Watched the movie?
Okay.
Yes.
No, yeah, you should read it. The fifth book of the trilogy gets a little odd, but like 1 through 4 are definitely good.
Time out. Time out. Did you say the fifth book of the trilogy?
Here, yes, one moment.
There's a comment about that somewhere in the whole related documents. It's like the increasingly inaccurately named Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy.
Yes. Wait. Let me see if I can actually show it to you. Because I do have it here.
That's exactly like saying the 5 members of our trio.
I mean, there are 3 Musketeers.
Yes, but on the cover of book 5, it says the 5th book of the increasingly inaccurately named Hitchhiker's trilogy. Because he was having a dig at publishers as well. But anyway,
human creativity, it's quite a marvel, man. Sometimes I have that's another thing that sometimes you just got to stop and wonder at. Human creativity. Because yes, human stupidity will go, like Nate said, way far afield and be regrettable. But then again, you have the flip side of that coin, and it's beautiful.
Gotta admit, whoever thought of the cheeseburger has my deep friendship and admiration.
Well, and then someone looked at this and said, "This is good, but it could be better," and they invented the bacon cheeseburger.
To be fair, I think that all just goes under the category of the guy who invented bacon. Kevin, I believe.
Well, it's
yeah. 10 points to Gryffindor.
It's there's nothing that is not better if you add bacon. Like here, do you want to eat this brick? No. Do you want to eat this brick wrapped in bacon? Still no, but slightly less no.
The funny thing is that even includes Islam.
Anyway,
That's the comment that finally gets this whole enterprise taken down off of YouTube, right there.
Oh, I have had one video vanished off of YouTube
Why?
for being unkind, for being not nice to about Islam.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I have my two other channels, and it is on one of them, and I just realized I need to get it backed up on the other one.
Well,
And not two other channels, two other platforms.
we're
YouTube is
speaking
becoming
for a moment of wonder, and I realize I'm watching the screensaver go on my desktop behind my recording device here. And yeah, 80% of the screensaver is images that were taken from the Cassini probes,
Oh.
Ultra HD NASA photos of these planets. Okay. The fact that the state of our art has gotten this good is also a wonder to me. Just there's a verse, and now it's Nixon fighting a saber-toothed tiger, but whatever. But
Sorry.
there's a proverb that says that it is the glory of God to conceal a matter. It is the glory of kings to uncover it. And so that right there is always what I want to tell people who say that, like Christianity wants you to stay ignorant and in the dark. Like, no, Christianity wants you to learn, but it wants you to learn the proper way. It wants you to learn that God has made this intricate, beautiful thing that we get to figure out. And see, I'm looking at
Well,
this stuff, the great orbs of the universe, and just being like, this is so cool. I mean, like our fathers, much less our grandfathers, would have had no concept that this is a thing that was possible. Bill Whittle talks about it. Like he's like, when I was a kid, a picture of Jupiter was like a muddy tan spot on a black background, and then they'd show you like a painting, like this is what we think it looks like. Now we just have pictures of it, and they're good pictures. Like the pictures we have of planets that are millions and millions of miles away from us are better than the pictures we had of our kids 20 years ago.
well, I mean, it depends how ugly your kid is too.
A faithful picture of an ugly kid is still a good picture. It's just not fun to look at.
Sorry, I had to. Well, it's the other thing, Christianity is like anti-science, and it's like, please learn some actual history. Like science came out of Christian societies. Science grew out of Christian societies, and not only that,
I will
as
give
society,
give the Islamists one due. They made things stable enough in their home territories. They did pretty well on science until Genghis Khan wiped them out. Monotheism, I feel like, gives you a whole lot of stability, but Christianity has done better in the end.
But and it's not only that, like, science grew out of Christian cultures, but also as societies have moved away from Christianity, science is increasingly decaying and being corrupted.
Flat earthers.
And
I noticed that
not,
too.
well, and not even like, I mean, actual, like, the profession, people getting paid, people under the name of science, like our journals, like they publish things that, like, it's, what's it called, the replicability crisis. Like in it's worse in some fields, but it's a problem in like all fields of science. Social sciences is a complete disaster. Like, okay,
True.
the mark of real science, the mark of real science is that you set it up, you record everything, and then someone else can do the same thing and get pretty much the same results. And that's called replicability. And some people have started, checking, over the past several years, and they're like, guys, a lot of this is not replicating, like, at all. And like the social sciences, like, psychology and all those are a complete disaster in these terms. But like even the hard sciences, like physics and biology and medicine, it's a real problem. And, part of it is, I think, like our society moving away from Christianity, and science is, being corrupt, falling apart and being corrupted because it's losing the moral framework that held it together. Anyway.
I mean, they've dynamited the standard too. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, is that, if you cannot acknowledge objective truth, you cannot know anything. If you cannot say that there is a reality, which is a hard set of statements about the way things are, that is basically a long list of true false that is immutable and non-negotiable and utterly without concern for your thoughts about it. This is just the way it is. If you do not believe that, you cannot learn. You cannot discover anything. You cannot say that, okay, well, the reason this is the way this is because of this, because you already don't believe it.
Nate, I would like to compliment you because you just summed up thousands of years worth of philosophy in a couple of seconds. Well done.
I spent a lot of time thinking. Mostly because I'm
the other thing is, like, I would be willing to bet if you asked Isaac Newton, like, why are you studying physics? Why are you trying to figure out how these things work?
Are you creating physics?
A part of his answer would be to show the glory of God.
Actually, I think he said something similar to that. Something along the lines of mathematics is the fingerprints of God or something like that. I forget the exact quote, but it was something akin to that.
But like that would have been, part of his motivation. And if that's your reasoning, that changes how you do things. And so, anyway, but I think I've said most of what I wanted to say about this poem. Lewis, how about you?
This has rekindled this whole conversation. Everything about I want to look at Nate. Nate's got something cool. Nate, my dude. Oh, that is pretty.
You missed Mimas. I got a pretty good picture of Mimas, which looks like the Death Star. No, seriously, it looks like it looks like Death Star with acne. This is Mimas set out on like a Mercator projection. These are, I think, Uranus. They didn't have the best pictures of this one. Oh, here it is. The big thing. This is Mimas. That's so amazing.
That's beautiful, man.
There's another full color photograph. It's got ice geysers on.
Wait, what planet is that with that hexagon? Is
Saturn.
That Saturn? It's Saturn. Yeah, there's a hexagon. Like on the why?
Pole.
How?
A hexagon?
Yeah,
on Saturn.
It was up there a minute ago, like around one of the poles. Here.
Oh, this one. The probe zone camera got a picture of ring rise. That's one of the last ones before it went into the atmosphere of Saturn and was destroyed.
Yeah, there it is. Here, here's an image of Let me see if I can get this up by itself.
Nate, those were beautiful. Thanks, man.
Dude, they're free. Go to the NASA website. Look up you can find the. Oh, here it is. Ooh, that's so cool. Cryovolcano. That planet.
Wait.
It's
like I said, there's
public source images from the NASA website. You can look up the gallery from their missions.
Like I said, there is a hexagon on Saturn. How? Why? I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
That's the magnetic poles. The South Pole is the same way. It's actually got big hexagonal things on top, right around the pole.
Someone bolted Saturn together, apparently, and they forgot to paint over it.
Spackle it real well when he put it all together.
The terrifying thought that you might actually have a point And ooh, conspiracy theories are going to go nuts about this if they haven't already.
Well, okay. Here, I'll throw in one more thing like that. There's I found this in an Arthur C. Clarke book I read like decades ago. It's one of the sequels to 2001: A Space Odyssey. There is a theory that in Jupiter's atmosphere there are chemical reactions that tend to precipitate carbon down to the surface. Okay, so you have carbon, okay, on the surface of Jupiter under immense amounts of pressure for a long time. Okay, what happens when you take carbon and put an immense amount under an immense amount of pressure for a long time?
Diamonds?
There is a theory that the core of Jupiter is a diamond about the size of Earth.
Yeah, it rains diamonds on Jupiter. Pretty
So,
awesome.
so that's
the hottest planet on Earth is not the one hottest planet on Earth. Jesus Christ. That's more looking Death Starly at Mimas.
Yeah.
But the hottest planet in the solar system is actually not the one closest to the sun.
Which one is it?
Hottest. Venus is.
They have greenhouse effect because they have the clouds that traps the heat.
Sulfuric acid clouds. It's terrible.
It does what?
Sulfuric acid clouds. The atmosphere is basically entirely corrosive chemicals. It would absolute bejesus out of you. The Russians actually got a probe onto the surface, and it actually fired off some pictures in the 12 minutes before it melted. It was like, dang.
Oh my gosh.
So, enough with the amateur astronomy for now. Nate, Nate, do you have any last thoughts about the poem to close out?
Take a step back from all the boogaloo and stuff that we deal with every single day. Get your mind out of Facebook and Twitter and current events and think about the little blue dot, the little blue speck suspended on a sunbeam, and understand that instead of feeling small because of that, you should feel utterly amazed that all this cosmic machinery was put in place so that little blue speck could get a little warm and a little moist, and that we could all grow up here. And think about just the vast possibilities for what could be happening somewhere, the titanic forces at play in this creation. And just bask in awe at the glory of creation. There's a song that I actually found that sort of stumbled across the other day. It's called Serve Him, like hymn, the song type hymn. And it talks about it, and it says, see what, and it's like, my sin was unreal. Oh, also.
Yeah.
These are one of the best series of pictures. But anyway, it talks about, my sins were massive and deep and wide. It says, see what power so fell and fair has stayed his holy justice. God himself all hell did bear, so great for us his love is. And I was just like, and then it talks later about how, we're so small beneath the vastness of the stars, and yet God came down and poured his love for us. That, I think, is the greatest wonder of all, is that amongst all this, each and every one of us has enough value that the self-existent, the one who has no needs, chooses to desire, of all things, he desires to know us. He doesn't need anything we can do. We cannot offer him anything that he cannot get for himself. And yet, our thinking hamburgers are the things that he is nearest to his heart.
Oh.
That is the
So,
greatest one.
So, Lewis, how about you? Any last thoughts on tonight's poem?
This poem has inspired me. I'm not gonna lie. This poem has inspired me to stop and smell the roses more. Lately, I have gotten so wrapped up in my own machinations, my own plans, my own things that I'm gonna do, and everything that I want and everything I'm trying to get, that to my shame, I've forgotten to appreciate the things around me. So I need to spend at least a little bit of time just appreciating the things around me, the people in my life, even just the pets and animals that God has gifted us with. So
Okay.
this poem is inspirational.
Well, yeah, G.K. Chesterton can do that pretty well. Okay. Well, thank you both for joining me tonight, and I hope everyone out there enjoyed this talk, and God be with you.
Amen. Go smell the roses.